Hey guys, sorry I'm late, but yeah, it's time for the flea market countdown. So let's see how many movies we have. Yeah, so here we have Black Hawk Down, which is a war movie by Ridley Scott, and it apparently took place during the what was it again? Yeah, I don't know very much about this war, but I'm a fan of Ridley Scott, and the sun looks very interesting. And here we have My Little Eye, which is kind of a contest surveillance camera horror movie. And yeah, and here we have Triangle. I really enjoyed the director's other movie Creeps, so this one should be very fun as well. And here we have let's see, Nowhere in Africa, and it's about a Jewish couple who flee from Nazis, and they start living a new life in Kenya, where they have to fight for their survival. And but it's not really a thriller or even a war movie. Really, it seems more like a nice down to earth drama. And here we have a rendition, which also which also happens to be something of a war movie. I think I bought a lot more war movies than I usually do. So yeah, just a fun fact, I guess. But yeah, it has a great cast, especially Jake Gyllenhaal, and yeah, should be enjoyable. And here we have Chariots of Fire, a classic Oscar nominator, or I think it might have been a winner as well. But it's the same director who made Revolution, which I know a lot of people don't like it, but I always thought it was underrated. And yeah, I look forward to checking this one out as well. Oh, I have my first comment. It's my dear loyal follower Adi Mendoza asking how I'm doing. And here we have All the King's Men. Once again, a movie I bought because of a great cast. I mean, they're just well, there was one name in particular. Sorry, my throat. That caught me, and that is James Gandolfini, because there's something very special and magnetic about his presence that always makes you engaged whenever you're watching on screen. So yeah, looking forward to it. And and you can't imagine how happy I was when I found this, and which had three Hitchcock movies I have never seen before: Strangers in a Train, Foreign Correspondent, and Shadow of a Doubt. And and two of these are very old movies of his as well. Well, old in terms of his career. So yeah, I was just amazed. I was just amazed to find them because, and I kind of need something after the disappointing Torn Curtain as well, which was okay but pretty weak for Hitchcock. And it looks kind of different for a Spike Lee movie. He usually makes social dramas comedies, so I wonder how he's going to pull an action movie off. And this is funny. I actually saw Nicolas Cage in a new movie, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, yesterday. And what did I find? A Nicolas Cage classic, Orwell, you know, cult classic, at least. And this is based on a comic book character, Ghost Rider, who I don't know very much about him, but a lot of people say that this is very fun in a campy, cheesy sense. So, and of course, Nicolas Cage is always a joy whenever he's on screen, so that's even better. And here we have, yeah, Lawrence's Oil. And it's about this couple played by Nick Nolte and Susan Sarandon, whose son has a life-threatening disease, and they're trying to do everything in their power to find a cure for him. It doesn't say on the back which kind of disease it is, but well, it must be fairly serious. The Black Dahlia. Some of you know that I am a very, very big Brian De Palma fan. Like, he's one of my absolute favorite, if not my favorite director. And this hasn't gotten the best reviews. I was a little bit scared when I bought it, but you know, it's De Palma. I can't not give one of his movies a chance. So yeah, we'll see how it turns out, I guess. Oh, and hey, Rebecca, very nice to see you. This is a very dear friend of mine who also was in the last live stream. And here we have An Officer and a Gentleman. You know, I'm kind of a sucker for romantic dramas. And one story in which a girl as well sounds very, you know, yeah, it should be something special. And oh yeah, it's the Devil's Advocate director as well, Taylor Hackford. So it holds a lot of promise. And here we have two war movies. The first one is called, can't see the original title here, but pretty much, you know, The Wild Geese. And the second one is actually, you know, it's the second movie that intrigued me most because it's a war movie starring Richard Roundtree. Like, wow. Never thought I'd seen one of those movies. So, and I'm a big fan of him from the Shaft movies, so I'm very excited to see how he does in it. And here we have Rabbit Hole, pretty much, you know, it doesn't really say exactly what it's about, but it's pretty much a tragedy which tears a couple apart. And, you know, it's gonna be sad, of course, but those are the kind of movies I like, I guess. Here we have The Good Shepherd, which is one of the very few movies directed by Robert De Niro. And he did a tremendous job in A Bronx Tale. So, yeah, it should be fun to see how it does with this one as well. And of course, besides the three main actors, it also features a cameo by Joe Pesci, one of the few roles he had in later years. Here we have Sunshine, pretty much an apocalyptic drama thriller by Danny Boyle. And he's a great director, so I think this one is going to be a winner as well. And here we have The Patriots. And this will be the first Roland Emmerich movie I'll ever see. That's right, I haven't even seen Independence Day. And I have a friend who's seen this movie, and he thinks it's awful. And it has gotten some criticism later in the years for its historical inaccuracies, but I don't know, it still looks entertaining to me. Like, if a movie is fun for what it is, that's good enough for me. And here we have a first Swedish movie, Änglagård, which is, I guess, would be called Angel Garden in English. And I'm not the biggest fan of what I've seen from Helena Bergström, but, you know, it's also got Richard Wolff and Walter and Per Oscarsson, you know. Oh, and Johannes Brost. So those actors alone make me very intrigued to watch it. And here we have, not really sure how to pronounce it, Sotsi, maybe, I don't know. But it's about the gang leader who's, have a very rough and difficult past, and one day he accidentally kidnaps a 3-month-old baby, and this starts to take his life in a very different direction. And it sounds like it could be a very touching, but it's a thriller. Well, it could still be touching in some way. Oh, and Rebecca says Änglagård is a classic. All right, cool. I sure enjoy it then. And this is another movie that a lot of people can't believe I haven't seen, Taken. And it, of course, stars Liam Neeson, who is, has a daughter who gets kidnapped, and that leads him to try and hunt down the kidnapper. And and he has his really iconic speech where he says, "I will find you, and I will kill you." There's a lot more that goes into it, but a lot of people have been positive on this movie, so I'm looking forward to it. And here's the oldest movie I found at the market, The Gold Rush. And I was kind of stunned when I saw it, because it's not very common where you found, like really old movies at the film, like especially silent movies. This is probably the first silent movie I've ever seen there as well. And Charlie Chaplin is a very entertaining and charming comedian, so I think it's gonna be a blast. And here we have 8 Mile, Eminem's one and only acting role. And I'm a big fan of Eminem's music, but I've never actually seen how he is as an actor. And a lot of people have praised his performance. And since this movie is about rap, it was probably a very personal project to him. So I can imagine he puts a lot of his heart and soul into it. And I mentioned earlier that I bought a surprising amount of war movies, so here we have 2 other ones. The Thin Red Line and Platoon. And Platoon in particular, I have wanted to see a very long time. Like, not just because I like Oliver Stone, but it also features Charlie Sheen in a dramatic role, and I always felt he's a very underrated dramatic actor. So it's gonna be interesting to see how he's in it. I was liking it. And Terrence Malick is the one who directed Thin Red Line, and I haven't seen a lot of him. A lot of people are kind of divisive on his style overall, but this definitely looks like one of his best movies. Lars von Trier, he always brings you something unique, to say the least. And as with pretty much 99% of his movies, I'm sure it's going to be very, very depressing, but probably very, engaging at the same time. Chocolat. I kind of become, Johnny Depp is one of those actors that they, I liked him, but I wasn't like the biggest fan of him in the world or anything. But the more movies with him I see, the more I realize that he has a lot of range, and he does especially well in dramatic roles. So gonna be fun to check out. And here we have The Kids Are All Right, which is about a lesbian couple who has It's a very nice and steady life with Dora, but then one day her regular birth dad shows up and suddenly life is a chaos. And this inspired the extremely bad pun for the Simpsons episode The Kids Are All Fight, which doesn't even make sense grammatically. But in movie, it's based on it looks very good. So that was probably a very unnecessary tidbit, but whatever. The Bat movie from 1989, and this is kind of a funny story. Um, I'm a big fan of Jack Nicholson. In fact, he's my favorite actor after Al Pacino, and yet I still never seen his interpretation of the Joker. And one of my friends is so baffled by this that he just keeps, you know, he keeps trying to nag me into seeing this movie. And he said, if I don't find this movie at the flea market, he's gonna buy it for me, just to make sure that I finally see it. So, well, you can save your money because I found it. And it's not that I didn't want to see it. I mean, I love Jack Nicholson. This looks like a very good Bat movie. I just kind of, sometimes it takes a while before you get to some classics. In the senses, a South Korean horror movie. And yeah, it's about this girl named Jan who's plagued by a division of dead people. And her psychologist is trying to tell her that it's only fantasy, but then they become more and more frightening. And so realistic that even her psychologists start to see them. And I'm really into Asian horror movies. Like there's something about the atmosphere to them that is so intensely frightening most of the time. Like like Ringu, for example, is one of my favorite horror movies, and I'm a big fan of The Eye, the first two theatrical Grudges, the originals. Oh God, no, not the awful American remake. I kind of got off track here, but yeah, it looks good. And here we have Whiff, Nail, and Die. And I don't know much about this one, but it's kind of those film critics' favorites that you see a lot of times. And I thought my purchases were starting to get a little bit too 2000 centric, so I thought it was, just as well that I found an older classic as well. And I really enjoyed Richard Griffiths as an actor as well. And yeah, now we're getting to one of my weird purchases, Little Nicky. Like a lot of Sally's movies, it's got a ton of hate when it came out, and someone still hated it to this day. But then in later years, people started kind of appropriating it as a cult classic, and I even had a username on Discord that was a reference to this movie. And it looks very, very silly to be sure, but it could be a good kind of silly. Like, you never know. Popeye's chicken is fucking awesome. Yeah, that's a quote from a movie. And Saludos Amigos, which was also the last movie I bought at Free Market. And I really loved this movie as a child. It's pretty much a vignette movie. It doesn't really have a linear plot to speak of, but the main crux of the movie, at least, are Donald Duck and his Caballero friends. And the weird thing is that for a long time, I thought the movie I'd seen so much as a kid was called The Three Caballeros, but it was actually this movie which they also feature in. So, yeah, it's really nice to find the first movie they appear in. And here we have The Last King of Scotland, which is... I think it's based on a true story about this dictator called Idi Amin, and it's pretty much about his life journey and whatnot. And Forrest Whitaker is a great actor, so I'm very sure he's gonna be able to give his role justice. And it's even got my beloved Gillian Anderson in the supporting role. Oh, Adrian Mendoza says it's a great movie. All right then. And here we have Superbad. And this stars a lot of 2000s comedic actors fairly early into their careers. And considering how much a fan of I am of Seth Rogen and Jonah Hill, as well as Michael Cera, it's kind of now I'll finally get to check it out. And here we have yet another war movie, Blood Diamond. And it's about these people who, are tracking down this pink diamond. But because it's a war movie, it's called Blood Diamond, which is symbolic because war involves a lot of blood. I guess I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but it looks great. Rebecca asks, how many movies did you find? I'm not really sure yet. But when I have, done a brief summary of everything I found, I'm gonna go ahead and count them as well. And here's another one of my sillier purchases, cats and dogs. And I'm not gonna lie, pretty much the only reason I even bought this is because we have Jeff Goldblum and Tom McGuire in one of the roles. And Tom McGuire is one of those actors who I think gets kind of unappreciated sometimes. And even though this doesn't exactly look like an Oscar-winning role for him, I still think it will still be very fun to hear his voice in it. Oh, sorry, almost put it at the wrong place. And here we have Baby's Day Out, which, believe it or not, is a John Hughes movie. And I really enjoy John Hughes' work, and even though it got a lot of bad reviews, I still think it looks like fun. And for some reason, though, it has it's split into two discs. So the first disc contains the first half. The second disc is the second half, which must mean that this is a very, very old release, maybe even from the late 90s. And the picture quality on it, when I try it on my TV, doesn't seem to be the best, but sometimes you just have to own a movie. And Rebecca says she loved cats and dogs when she was a kid. The more you know. And here we have the second Swedish movie. At least the weather was good. And it's one of those classic road trip disaster movies where in this one the family goes on a road trip and they're trying to have a nice vacation, but everything just goes terribly wrong. So and it seems kind of like the Swedish answer to Vacation. Wait a minute. Vacation came out after this one. Did you rip it off? No, of course not. Why would I even think that? And here we have one of my classic childhood movies, Austin Powers, the first one. And I've wanted to rewatch Austin Powers for a very long time, like especially now when Mike Myers has gotten back to the limelight. So I'm really excited to revisit it. And here we had something very strange but intriguing. A movie starring members of the band Outkast. Like, Movies starring musical members can be very fascinating, like especially some of the older ones. And I really love the musical Outcast, and it's going to be very interesting to see how they are as actors as well. Rock, rock, rock in a high school. Rock, rock, rock in a high school. Yeah, I watched this movie to death when I was a kid. I mean, I just absolutely loved it. I mean, there's so many crazy scenes and moments, and it's got fantastic music as well, of course, because it's the Ramones. And yeah, gonna be fun to see how it holds up. And here's Big Fish. And uh, yeah, I'm sorry if my summaries are a bit bad in this one, but yeah, it's pretty much yeah, it's a drama starring Ewan McGregor, made by Tim Burton, and I have heard a lot of praise for this one, and even though Tim Burton seems to have fallen off a bit in later years, he still has a lot of great movies to his name too. So yeah, I have faith in it. And here we have Gosford Park. Alan, no, it's Robert Altman. Why the hell did I always say Alan? Uh, he's one of those praise directors who has a lot of movies to his name, but I've only seen MASH. But this one, yeah, it looks like a lot of fun to me. I love a good murder mystery. And when I first saw the cover to this movie, I thought it was 7 Years in Tibet, but apparently not. It's a drama by Robert Redford. Uh, that's all I have to say, I guess. But yeah, looks good. And here we have Gangs in New York, which I actually almost bought a long time ago, but for some reason I just didn't get to do it. But Martin Scorsese is usually a fantastic director, so yeah, I think it's gonna be a good one. I'm so one note. It's really like, if it's gonna be good, it's gonna be good. Like I have nothing else to say. And here we have Match Point, Woody Allen movie, and this looks like kind of an anomaly for him, because I mean he has made a lot of crime movies besides romantic ones, but it doesn't really seem to be as comedic as most of them. So yeah, but nevertheless, it looks very intriguing, and I'm a fan of Woody Allen generally. The only movie of his I seen so far that I didn't like was Celebrity, which was kind of and here we have The Hours, which is about now I can finally give a real summary again, which is about three women from three generations, and they have in common that they all have personal experiences of suicide, which probably either means that they have had friends or family members who have committed suicide, or they have tried to do it themselves. Which, yeah, doesn't sound like a most uplifting movie, but still, it could be sweet in its own way as well. You know how these three women, bond over a common tragedy. Sorry. I had to stretch really far. Don't stop, I'm gonna have myself time. Yeah, I finally have the first season of South Park. For a long time, I only added the second and the 11th one. Why in such random order? I don't know. But yeah, the first few seasons of South Park always they get a little bit too much hate sometimes because they're much cruder than the later years that followed. But I think there's a lot of charm to that crudeness, especially in the first season. So yeah, it's gonna be great to revisit all these episodes. Yeah. My general opinion is that romantic comedies kind of start going downhill in the mid 2000s, and you know I've been met with my fair share of disappointments, especially that piece of shit PS of Love You, PS of Love You. But one weird thing I've noticed is that when they center around teenagers or young adults, they tend to be much better most of the time. And Michael Cera has been a few, and I really enjoyed Michael Cera in Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and yeah, it looks like a cute little movie. Winterspawn, the movie that put Jennifer Lawrence on the map I've ever seen. Like I was like, oh my god, I gotta see this movie right away. But then I just didn't. It never happened. Why? I'm not really sure. But now I finally own it in my hands, so I can not postpone it any longer. Even though I'm not really sure why I did so in the first place. And yeah, here we have Fracture, and it's by the same director who made Primal Fear, which was a really well done twist thriller. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he brings to the table with this one as well. And of course, Anthony Hopkins. I mean, he's just tremendous in everything he's in. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not really sure if this movie is gonna, but Robbie Williams is one of those. Whenever I see something is in, pretty much 98% of the time, I got to own it because even if he doesn't star in the best movie, like he always gets. That's even sadder. But still, should be fun to watch him. And here we have the sort of biopic based on the Doors. From what I've heard, it's one of those biopics which is more artistic rather than literal, kind of like Pink Floyd The Wall. But that's what intrigues me about it as well. And it's another movie directed by Oliver Stone as well. So yeah. And here we have Christopher Walken here. And I don't think I had heard about this movie before, but when I read the plot, I just started chuckling so much because it sounds completely fucking insane. Okay, so it's about this guy named Avery. His sister has gotten kidnapped, and the kidnappers want $2 million in ransom, but he doesn't have any money. So he and his buddy come up with a plan to kidnap some of themselves, and demand the same ransom. And the person who they choose is Carlo Benedetti. So he wakes up, tied and captured in the mansion at Long Island, and it says he can't even give him the finger because they cut it off. And if he doesn't want to help him, there are 9 more ways to convince him. And yeah, of course, I really enjoy Christopher Walken in most of his role as an actor. But it's mostly the description that really sold me because it just sounds so flipped out that I have to see it. And now we're getting to the end. Analyze this. And I actually almost walked past this movie, but a friend who I met up a little bit along the way said, "Hey, you forgot to pick up Analyze this because he knew my taste beforehand." And I'm really glad I went back to it because I want when Harry Met Sally and Monster Inc. I still haven't seen him that many roles. And Robert De Niro, of course, is also blastable. And oh yeah, it's a Harold Ramis movie, so a double whammy right there. And lastly, we have The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes' Smarter Brother. And this is one of those movies that kind of had me starstruck when I found it. Because, my God, like, this is one of Gene Wilder's more obscure movies. And somebody just happens to have it very at their stand. Like, how lucky can you possibly get? And Gene Wilder, just like Robbie Williams, is one of my favorite comedic actors. I mean, it's just an absolute joy to watch in every movie, and it just seemed like such a pleasant, fun person to be around as well. And it also has Marty Feldman, who was very funny in Silent Movie and Young Frankenstein. So, yeah, definitely one of my most anticipated in the collection. All right, so that was every movie then. So it's time to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Oh, sorry. Rebecca asks me, which movie are you most looking forward to watch? To be honest, it would either have to be Strangers of a Train, or The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes' Smarter Brother. Adrian Mendoza asks, "Can you count them in Swedish?" Well, I don't see why the hell does 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55. Holy shit. Rebecca asks, "Can you count them in Spanish?" I'm sorry, that would be very cool, but maybe a little bit too difficult for me. But a nice suggestion at least. And Adrian Mendoza asks, "Have you seen The Northman?" Yeah, I have, and I really liked it. No, Alexander Skarsgård did a great job in the role, and it does have some flaws, like maybe the characters aren't developed enough at times, but yeah, it's still a very fun and exciting drama. Okay. 56, 57, 58, 59. And then one TV series. So wait. Instead of getting less or breaking my record, I got exactly the same amount as last year. Well, that's an odd coincidence, I guess. I mean, that really says something about how hard it is to beat something as high as 59 movies. So, to even get the same amount again is kind of amazing by itself. But yeah, I suppose that was everything for this year. And thanks to everybody for tuning in. Now, I can take a last minute question if you ask it in, let's say, 10 seconds. Rebecca says it's your lucky number. Yeah, seems to be the case. All right, you got 7 more seconds to ask your last question. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, there we have it. Adrian Mendoza asks, "How's Sweden?" Um, hmm, a little political at the moment. I'm really worried about how the union with NATO is gonna, what kind of effect it's gonna have on the country. Like a lot of movie have pointed out the pros of it, but at the same time, I'm worried that it will create another, you know, uh, kind of an evil circle. Just you know, like fighting fire with fire. But yeah, I don't know. That's my answer, I guess. On the outside for about 5 to 6 hours, so you can you can maybe understand me not being at my very clearest. But yeah, that was it for this year, and thanks for tuning in. So Alkes and Super signing off.